Strikes. Reggie Bush, you had the unique career. You played in USC at Glamour City.
Yep.
Then a Crazy City, Party City, Mardi Gras, New Orleans.
Yeah.
And then you went to Miami.
Yeah.
Your most productive years, we were talking about Odell Beckham, and Joy and I were talking about this earlier, that does the city matter for players? So I could make an argument. The four biggest party cities in America are L.A., Vegas, Miami, and New Orleans.
Yeah.
You played in three of them, and all your productive years
were in those cities.
Were in the party cities. So did you see teammates unravel? Why didn't you unravel? Because OBJ now is going to kind of boring Cleveland from New York, and my takeaway is it's not a terrible thing. So talk about your own experience.
100% I saw teammates unravel. And so I think it's also predicated on the person, like the personality, like your character, right, is going to – it's not going to change, but it's just going to maybe if you go to a party, it may elevate, right?
Like they say about money, money makes you more of what you are. Isn't that the saying?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So a nice guy is really nice, and a mean guy is a jerk.
Yes.
So
and if you had a little bit of a party boy inside you already, then going to Miami or New Orleans, then, yeah, you could get lost in the partying. But it's funny because I never looked at New Orleans as a party city. And I go back to 2006 when I first got there. I got there 6 months after Hurricane Katrina. So there was nobody there. And it was a ghost town. And so one of the things that, and this speaks to Odell, I actually wanted to text him as I hadn't done it yet, but when I look back on my beginning, the first couple years in New Orleans, I wish I would have appreciated the magnitude of the opportunity that we had in front of us, because I was still stuck on, man, it's not sunny here like L.A., there's no palm trees here, or, there's not a whole lot to do here. And it took me about 2 years to really grasp that I have an opportunity to do something special here that nobody has ever done before. And that's to, one, help revive a city, restore some faith, but also win a Super Bowl for a franchise that's never been done before. If Odell wins a Super Bowl in Cleveland, he will never have to pay for a drink, food, nothing ever again, because those are some of the most diehard fans that football has to offer. I mean, they go to games every year knowing that they have no shot, right? And now they're on one of the most talented teams, at least on the offensive side anyways, in the NFL. And I just really hope that he can quickly grasp the opportunity that he has in front of him.
Because you didn't.
Because I didn't in my first 2 years. And also it had something to do with Hurricane Katrina, the people not being there. And so for me, I still had the immature mentality as to, man, it's not enough to do here.
Listen,
and so when I would, sorry not to cut you off, but when I would get like 2 or 3 days off, I would fly back to LA. And I did that for like my first year, whenever we would get time off in the off season or maybe a bye week or something like that. I couldn't wait to get to LA. And then as I got deeper into my career in New Orleans, I really started appreciating the beauty of just what it had to offer. And I just hope that Odell can grasp that, because, yes, it may not be as much to do as New York, but you got something special in front of you and an opportunity to do something in Cleveland that you didn't do in New York.
By the way, when you were in New Orleans, you didn't quite appreciate Sean Payton, Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham. You had a couple good offensive linemen. The reality is Odell Beckham should realize, I think he does, this offense for Cleveland, it's like dudes.
Yeah.
Like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb and Duke Johnson and Jarvis Landry.
They got players.
Like dudes on offense, it's an all-star team.
And now you have the quarterback who has the same energy as you, right? He has that same youthfulness as you, and he plays the game like you do, right? He's in the end zone celebrating, dancing. Right. So I'm expecting to see a lot of that, but this is the energy and the youthfulness that I think Odell needs around him. I just hope that the chemistry's got to be right. Chemistry's got to be right.
All right. So speaking of New Orleans, they got jobbed last year at the end of the year. They're very upset, blah, blah, blah. So they want rule changes. I'm not a big fan of the new NFL rule changes. I've always had kind of a belief on, and I'll talk about it in Best for Last. Do you think the NFL should make major alterations to replay because of the Rams-Saints ending?
Well, I don't think it should be just because of the Rams-Saints ending, because that is just one of many, right? There's a lot of times where games are more and more becoming decided by referees, and it shouldn't be like that, right? And so that play, as we're watching it right now, that is as blatant as it can get. You got two referees who are looking at this play And the NFL has really done a good job at pushing this narrative as we're trying to protect the players more, right? We're trying to protect the player's head more. Well, you got helmet to helmet right there, and you got pass interference. You miss both of those, right? What are you looking at? Because the one thing I go back to is as players, when we mess up, when we miss plays, we get chewed out. And if you miss enough of them, you'll get benched, and somebody else will replace you. Steve Wilkes got fired after 1 year, right? And so referees need to be held just as accountable as the rest of the league, as the players, as the coaches. It all needs to work together. So why this is so significant is because, for one, guys sacrifice so much year in and year out to get to this point, to get to the game before the Super Bowl, right? You sacrifice family relationships, you sacrifice business, you sacrifice a lot, your body, your brain, you're giving up. And for that call not to happen, to me, is just speaks volumes to where the NFL has gone lately. There's been more and more no calls or calls that decide games, and it shouldn't be like that. The plays need to decide the games, not the referees, not these phantom holding calls that we see a lot of times. You got 300-pound linemen that are trying to block each other. You could call holding every play if that's the case, if it's going to be that ticky-tack. If it's not a blatant, like the guy's pulling his jersey, then, what are we doing? So I think they need to definitely use the replay if it's going to mean more fairness for the game.
Reggie Bush joining us, Super Bowl champ 2009, 11 years in the NFL, number 2 pick by the Saints overall. I want to talk about this. So you had a kind of college career. I've said this before. There's been only about 4 or 5 college football players in my life that I thought needed to get a check when they left the university because of the digital and the merchandising. You're one of them. Vince Young's one of them. Johnny Manziel's one of them. Tim Tebow's one of them. Not many. Yeah. None of the Alabama players. That stadium's going to sell out regardless. Right. But you 4 players really were an industry. You were a cottage industry. You couldn't go anywhere in Los Angeles. It wasn't Leinert's jersey. Yeah. It was yours. And it's rare the running back over the quarterback, and Matt was great. So there's 4 guys that I thought the university should just go, listen, you made us $38 million in merchandising. Yeah. And I've always felt merchandising, when you get the rare player, write them a check, boom. So Zion, I couldn't tell you the last college player. Maybe it's Christian Laettner, maybe Shaq, maybe. That I'm like, oh no, he's going to walk in to the NBA and be a star. Yes. You were the NFL jersey sales leader your rookie year. Yeah. So you know what it's like. USC was the glamour program. Yes. You were the glamour player. You were the most talked about running back maybe in my life out of college. So what is he going to experience? If you could sit down with Zion and say, here's a couple of things, big fella, what would you say?
He's going to experience the weight of the world. He's going to experience a lot of pressure. People are going to look to him to have these big games week in and week out. And every game they're going to be looking to Zion to be the savior of the team. Savior is
an interesting word because you were seen as a savior type.
Yes. And if he goes to a team that's a struggling basketball team, then, yes, they're going to look to him to be – he has the kind of the LeBron James factor, right, of coming in, just his size, right, his height and what his athletic ability. When he steps on the court, people watch and people notice, and people can't take their eyes away from the TV. And so he's going to experience a lot of pressure. The one piece of advice I would give him is to keep your circle small, because everybody and their mom, if they're not already doing it, are going to be pulling at you. You're going to get friends, and it's usually the people closest to you. It's never the people that you think is, distant relatives or distant friends or a coach that comes out of nowhere. It's usually the people closest to you.
And they start grabbing.
Because, and if it's family members, and God bless them, but they feel entitled, right? They feel entitled because maybe they helped raise you, or, maybe it's your brother or sister. And so those are the people that, yes, they do deserve, part of, the credit for the journey, but when it comes to the financial side of it, or when it comes to, a lot of things that players deal with, he's going to have a lot of pressure. And if I can give him any advice, I would say to keep your circle as small as possible.
How small was yours?
It wasn't small enough. It wasn't small enough.
8, 10, 12?
Yeah, something like that. I didn't roll with a big crew.
No, in fact, I saw you one time. You wouldn't remember this. I think I was in Miami for the Super Bowl, and I was at a restaurant, and I looked over. You were in a T-shirt, and we made eye contact. And I was like, "Hey, I didn't want to bother you." And you were kind of by yourself. You were in the corner with like a buddy, and it made me happy. I was like, "Reggie's in a T-shirt. Reggie's by himself. Reggie ain't hanging out." So,
and kind of what I'm speaking to is I had somebody very, very, very close to me, extremely as close as you can possibly, stole money from me. And it really messed up my whole world, because this was a person that, I was family, was he wasn't my blood related family, but he was family. And so then when it happened, it just, I couldn't believe it, and I didn't want to believe it. And it really, those are the kinds of things that happen all the time. And that's why I say you got to keep your circle small, because you just never know. And it's usually the people closest to you, and God bless them. You love them. But at the same time, you have to protect your own. And that's one of the hardest things to do as a young athlete, because you never want to look like a sellout, right? You never want to look like, I made it and I just forgot about everybody.
Right.
You want to be the guy, look, LeBron is doing a great job by bringing his boys into business.
But you know what? LeBron demands that his boys have their stuff buttoned up.
Exactly.
Rich Paul is a rep. I mean, I know LeBron's boys, they got their stuff buttoned up.
Every young black kid or every young athlete wants to be able to do the things that LeBron James is doing with his friends. Elevate them on the business side, help them make money, bring them along with them.
But they can't just be hanger-oners.
Exactly. And that's the issue.
And you had like one or two hanger-oners?
Yeah. I had more than one or two hanger-oners. I had a couple.
By the way, years ago I was in Portland. I won't name the young player. He was a tremendously gifted young player, and I did a story on him, and I went to his house. And I mean, the kid was from way away from Portland. He had a beautiful house, and he had about 6 or 7 guys in his house. And, one or two you meet, they're grown-ups. And then I went downstairs, and 2 guys were just playing video games for an hour and a half. And I remember walking out of the house thinking, they're just video game guys.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking as I walked out, I would be so insecure about the money and protecting. And you had a couple of those.
I had a couple of those. And it's unfortunate because
it's reality, though.
It is reality.
It's life.
And it is life. And you hate it. And you hate to see other people have to go through it. I know what I went through and how much that affected me, and the kind of depression I went into, and the kind of things I battled mentally, because this person was so close to me. He was family.
You know what? And you and Zion are also, fun, joyful people. I never had that problem, Joy, because I had no friends, so I didn't have any hanger-oners.
Yeah.
But Zion's the kind of kid, everybody's going to want a piece of Zion.
Everybody.
I mean, you'll watch the way he plays and the way he presents himself.
People don't want to be around him.
He is fun. His game is fun.
It is. And he seems like the kind of person that he just welcomes everybody, right? And a lot of times what happens is people will take that kindness for weakness, right? Yeah. And people will take that kindness for weakness to the point to where they do things that, that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And so that's the only piece of advice I would give Zion, man, is just keep your circle small. Make sure you have somebody close to you that you 100% trust.
Yes.
Because you can't always watch everything, right? Like, you got to have one person that like your ace, like from day one, your mom or dad, whoever it is, that you completely trust to watch things for you when you can't watch. When he's on that basketball court, somebody has to be watching.
By the way,
back.
I trust moms mostly.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't hear a lot of stories about moms screwing up.
No, you don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
I'm not picking on dads. Dads are men.
Yep.
We mess up a lot. Egos.
That's true.
Not a lot of moms screw up. You very rarely hear, Mom sold out her son. You're like, what? That's like a National Enquirer story.
Yeah, and you're 100% right there. I don't really hear too many of those with moms. Like,
not a lot of bad mom stories.
Dads, though.
We're dudes.
We be messing up.
It's great seeing you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.